Welcome, everyone, to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host, Jordan Raanan on ESPN, ESPN.com, Giants reporter, and we're here with the Breaking Big Blue Giants Nation show collaboration. I got it right this week, Bobby. Hey, Bobby, by the way, no cursing and expletives allowed in this podcast because then I can't put it up on my feed as well. So I know you hear me in the background. So hold off on certain drops that you like to throw in there, okay? All right. I see you. I see you smirking.
You're
back
really
there.
testing me. No, it's just not a good idea to tell me what I can't do.
Do me a favor, okay? Keep it to a minimum at least. Okay, that's my only request. So we gotta we gotta keep it Disney proof to some degree. So hey, well, welcome. Hey, look, the first time we're doing this show off an actual Giants victory, and what I want to start is kind of the perspective that I have of the Jaxson Dart first start win, right? Clearly, he didn't go out there, sling the ball around. The overall passing part didn't blow you away and say, this guy's going to tear up the league and he's going to be this great player. But he did bring something, right? His legs, his aura, as the locker room keeps liking to call it, the it factor, his ability to move, that mobility, it looked different. Right? The offense was different, by the way. It was basically running a version of Ole Miss's offense, which I kind of predicted beforehand. They didn't even take almost every running play was out of the shotgun. Like it looked like Ole Miss. But being there, the biggest difference was this. There was a different energy in that stadium. And I'm not usually big into this kind of stuff and energy and the fan base and this stuff, but it just gave the fans and the fan base and maybe the team to a degree seeing the result is that it gave it a different energy where it wasn't to the point, and I think this is kind of where it had gone recently. It had recently gone, and over because of the past X number of years, they've been terrible, and they went 1-8 at home for God's sakes last year, is that you almost expect it to go wrong. Whereas it was different in this game. They almost expected it to go right. And a lot of that had to do with Jaxson Dart being there and the hope that you have a young quarterback. So I think he's sort of reinvigorated this fan base, and for good reason, right? I mean, let's be honest. Jaxson Dart gives you hope that, hey, you know what? The Giants may be heading in the right direction. And I think we saw that the other day. Now, can they play like this long term? Absolutely not. You cannot take that many hits as a quarterback, right? We're talking about his first ever start. He hurt his hamstring. The Giant that was announced during the game. You could see him limping at times. And then, in addition to that, he had to get concussion checked, by the way, which happened in the last time he played in the preseason as well. So you can't run him that much. And on top of that, when things are going poorly, he's scrambling, running around, taking hits, taking sacks, 6 sacks in the game. Like, if that's the way they're going to play long term, and it's not at least buttoned up a little bit version of that, we're at some point where the Giants are probably going to be playing a game or two at the very minimum without Jaxson Dart. That's just the reality of the situation. You can't take that many hits in the NFL. There's a time to lower your shoulder. There's a time where you just, go down. You don't need to use your right arm to stiff arm an opponent. Now, that's great in the moment. Big play, need it, have to have it play. Yes, we want him to do that. It's going to be pick and choose. But that attitude, and this is why the Giants drafted him, let's be honest. I spoke to Joe Judge, who coached him back probably in January, and said, what should I know about Jaxson Dart? Because Joe Judge works down there, works with the quarterbacks down in Ole Miss. And he said, basically, teams are going to fall in love with Jaxson Dart as they go through the process. He's going to end up being a late first-round pick. And the reason teams are going to fall in love with him is because they see this competitor, the way he works, the attitude he has. And you could see it. Actually, you could even see it when he's on the field, that he brings that attitude and that sort of, I know, for lack of a better term, that it factor. So you absolutely see it with Jaxson Dart on the field. And I think you saw it in the first game. And that gives this team hope. So when you're the Giants and you've lost 17 of 20 games, there's a picture of the great Joe Judge, Bobby's favorite. When you lost 17 of 20 games, you're 1-8 at home last year, and you finally have something to sort of hang your hat on and be hopeful for, you ride it. And it was evident. There was times where the fan base just started cheering and getting back into it and sort of, pushing the team forward. It seemed like, to a degree, like that you hadn't seen in a while. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was over the past couple of years, there was this impending doom. Like, even if things are going well, it's like, when are things going to go wrong here for the Giants? And that didn't exist on Sunday. Now, I don't know how much effect that had in the locker room. I don't think it had a ton of effect. The Giants offense, if we look back at it, actually wasn't that. The opening drive was awesome, right? After the opening drive, it actually wasn't even that good. But what I did like is they were able to move the ball pretty consistently, not like consistently up and down the field, but it wasn't like 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Like we just can't move the ball at all. It was like, okay, we get a first down or two. Jaxson Dart will run, slap together a first down, or Cam Scatteraboo, who's, that combination gives you as a Giant fan a lot of reason to be excited. Like, they bring excitement. Like, I don't know how good they're going to be. We can't make too much of this first start. If you want to go just look at the previous quarterback, go back and look at Daniel Jones's first start. Daniel Jones's first start was even better, right? I mean, Daniel Jones's first start made you think, holy cow, this guy could be a star in the league. Like, that's how good he was throwing the ball, passing the ball, runs it in for a touchdown, leads him to a late score, everything about that. So it's not going to be indicative of whether this is ultimately a success or not. But there was enough to like there. So the whole Jaxson Dart angle, like, that's what I took from being in the stadium. He provides the one thing that this team, and more than the team, I think it's more than the team, the fan base needed, and it's hope. I don't think he gave this team a huge, mental or internal boost, and that's why they won. No, they won because they were able to produce enough plays on offense, and the defense was able to dominate. The matchup was so good for them, and they were able to dominate the Chargers, and the Chargers' offensive line, which was banged up. They lost Joe All, had no chance. They were just completely overmatched. I mean, go look at the numbers. The numbers were crazy. I mean, QB hits alone, right? Abdul Carter with 5, Brian Burns 4, Kayvon 3. Like, they were hitting Justin Herbert every time he went back to pass. They got a little favor, by the way, that the Chargers thank you. If you're a Giant fan, you should thank the Chargers a little bit. I mean, they should have just ran the ball constantly. They passed it. There was a drive there late when they had a chance to take the lead, and they threw it team side 2 times in a row. It was great. But David Hernandez thinks there was an internal boost. I'm hating the offense gave the defense something to play for. Yeah, I agree. The offense gave the defense something to play for, and that was I'm talking about, like, it didn't make them try harder because Jaxson Dart was in. Now, certainly, we've been talking about this for years, and that's why all the attention. The defense didn't hold up their part. When you just constantly get beat down and know your offense is going to score, it affects you. So to have them at least have hope that the offense is going to do something does provide a boost for sure. So, Brian Daboll, that's the next thing you want to get to here. And we'll get to Connor Hughes's erotica prose. Bobby, people want to know, people want us to talk about that. So we are going to talk about that. You have no choice.
I have one of my questions was like, are you going to say something? I guess you said me not to use words, but something blank about Dart.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. But, and while it's funny to a degree, yes, like, you saw this. Like, the Kansas City Chiefs were 1-2 the other day going into the game, right? They win. And look, I know they're not even comparable. They're on the other end of the spectrum. But Andy Reid wins the game, goes on the field, talks to the other coach and walks off. Normal, nothing, right? Even Mike McDaniel yesterday. And there's been a lot of pressure on Mike McDaniel too, right? He wins the game. He lost his best player. He just walks up, shakes hands, walks up the field. He's happy. Brian Daboll is jumping up and down, pulling Jaxson Dart in, whispering sweet nothings in his ear. He said something to the effect of great effing win or something like that. That's a quote from Brian Daboll. Pounds his chest like Brian Daboll was pumped. That was a huge relief off his shoulders and shows you where things stand right now. He needed a win. I'm not saying he was going to get fired, but he was feeling the walls close in on him. And that was a big part of the reason why they went to Jaxson Dart in the first place. So this was absolutely an extra meaningful win to Brian Daboll and what it meant to him personally and this regime and his future. 100,000% meant something. Okay. Now remember, I'm going to give you a little quick update. Make sure to like this. Everybody like this post. Like this post. Like this podcast. YouTube. Like it. I'm trying to build up. A business here. Help us out. Tell your subscribe. Tell your friends they can catch the replay as well. But back to Brian Daboll for a second. He goes in the locker room, shares another embrace. I didn't see it personally. The whole Connor Hughes thing. That's out there. We'll get to that in a minute. But he goes and he embraces his quarterbacks and he says he has a whole, whispers to him again, says a whole bunch of things to him because this was a very meaningful win for Brian Daboll. He knew he needed a win. And now this gives them a little breathing room, right? Actually, they have a winnable game this week. The Giants, believe it or not, are favorites. Okay. Now we knew coming into the season, right, that the Giants wouldn't be favored in many games. As a matter of fact, this was the only game going into the season that they were projected to be favored in. And that is the case. The Giants they were 2.5, down to 1.5, actually, according to ESPN bet. So not very big favorites, but the Giants are favored. This is certainly a winnable game. Now, not a slam dunk. The Saints, they played hard last week. They had, they're in a tight game with the Bills in the fourth quarter on the road. So no game for the New York Giants is a guaranteed slam dunk win at this time. But on a scale of winnable games, this is right at the top. So you play well, you get what you need from Jaxson Dart, and now you're sitting there at 2-3, and hey, the season is kind of settled. The noise around Brian Daboll has disappeared, at least temporarily, around this front office, around the team, about the need for a win. So this wasn't, by no means, in any way, shape, or form, just another doing boomer things over here again, Bobby.
What happened?
My email is beeping. You guys don't hear that?
Nope.
Oh, okay. My email was going off. I was getting a couple emails in and it was beeping. So I thought I was doing boomer things again, because of my technological patheticness. But that's what it meant to Brian Daboll. Now, the dark cloud over the whole thing, right, is Malik Nabers. So you're putting in this rookie quarterback in Jaxson Dart. And you want to give him as much chance to succeed as possible. And that played into the whole thing about, hey, they would prefer to have Andrew Thomas back and at full strength before you put in Jaxson Dart. And he came back and he played every snap. And Andrew Thomas, even at 80% of Andrew Thomas, is the best lineman on the Giants by 3 miles. He is a really good player. So he played very well. And that's part of the reason why you want him to. But now there's no Malik Nabers. Your number one receiver, your number one weapon, the guy that you want him to develop that camaraderie with. And it's a problem moving forward. Malik Nabers out for the year, torn ACL. You knew it the second he went down and started reaching for his leg. I know there's a lot of talk about the turf, but the reality is on this turf, because remember the Giants replaced the turf. I believe this is the third season with the turf. That's the first ACL injury, at least that I know of, on this turf. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. I understand that. As far as I know, it's the first ACL injury on this turf. Do we know it's from the turf? I don't know. It's really hard. And I know people, it's easy to just go back and say that it's the turf's fault. We don't know. Nick Bosa tore his knee for however many times. And by the way, he plays on grass. Now, I agree. They should go for grass. 100%. The stadium should be grass. Whatever the cost, however they need to do it, they need to make it happen. Because they're doing it for World Cup. They could do it for the Giants and Jets. But do we know that that is exactly what caused the injury? It's really hard to say that. It's actually impossible to say that. But it is unfortunate that the Giants are now going to be without Malik Nabers for the entirety of this season. And now your rookie quarterback who you're trying to put in there, you're trying to get ready to play, and you're trying to give him the best chance to succeed, is without his best weapon. And you say, okay, and we'll get to, what do the Giants do at the wide receiver position? But the reality is the guys there are the answer. They need to be the answer. And everyone has to get moved up, right? Everyone has to get moved up the pecking order, at least for the time being. And Darius Slayton has to be the top outside guy. Wan'Dale Robinson is their slot guy. Those are their 1A and 1B. They have to be. You're not going to get a guy to come in and be a number one receiver. You're not going to pay for a number one receiver right now, or even trade for someone who's getting paid like a number one receiver. You're already paying Darius Slayton. Malik Nabers is going to have to getting paid in the future, right? And so you're not going to bring in another big money wide receiver. It doesn't make sense. That's bad team building. And on top of that, the Giants need every resource and asset they can muster. And this is still about building to the future. And I know you want to give your rookie quarterback a best chance to succeed, but you have to keep in mind his best chance to succeed is not really this year. This is a learning. This is for him to go out there and learn on the fly and gain experience. The priority is in how many games you could win this year with Jaxson Dart. And so I don't know yet. I think Malik Nabers' injury is strictly the ACL, which is a positive thing, that it's not the other ligaments as well. Sometimes they don't know until they go in there and do the surgery, though. So we'll have to wait and see. But they knew right away. They knew right away that he had probably torn his ACL. And now the Giants are moving forward without their top receiver. So, Bobby? I
was going to make you wait for a little bit.
You're mad I told you what to do?
Yeah, a little bit. Do you have like a daddy issue? Like your dad told you what to do, and no, my dad is great. People complain about their dad. I'm like, dude, that must suck because my parents kind of freaking rule. I think my mom's even in the chat right now. My dad taught me how to be an insane person. You're talking about the wide receiver thing.
Okay.
Not talking this week. I mean, what is the plan as that third receiver going forward? Because I see the ideas from people of, play a lot of 12 personnel. The Giants did that in 2022, and they had Saquon Barkley and a real deal running game. And then teams caught on to it. And I think people forget how important Isaiah Hodgins was because he got overrated after that year and then underrated the year after. That, it wasn't just Isaiah Hodgins, being a great player. It was they can just run regular drop back offense where when you have Jalen Hyatt out there, and we'll see with Bo Collins, I think Bo Collins can actually run a decent route, can block. He's got some drop issues. He's not going to blow you away with speed or anything. I think he might be the better option than Jalen Hyatt right now. But if Jalen Hyatt is the answer, it just kind of messes with your offense where one guy is essentially an alert on every single play. You can't put him on the front side of stuff or he ruins the spacing on it. Is there any and other people recommend all the best available guys are slot receivers. They're not replacing Wan'Dale Robinson.
Doesn't make sense.
Is there a world where Isaiah Hodgins is this the name that keeps coming back to me? I don't think Odell's happening, even though as someone who's been anti the Odell conversation at every turn for 6 years now, have actually opened my head up to it just a tiny bit. Is there any chance that we have someone that's not on the team or the current practice squad starting at receiver in the next couple of weeks with somebody that gets added immediately?
I think there's a chance. I think the Giants are at least looking. And I talked to someone around the league today. I'm like, hey, do you know any wide receivers that are available? And what they said to me was start by looking at people on the last year of their deal. Okay.
So
Start
trades?
Yeah. Very minimal investment. But again, like I said, if I'm the Giants, I don't want to give up any assets.
No,
But I'm not the Giants. And when you're in a situation where, for lack of a better term, desperate people do desperate things, like they know they still have to win games to a degree, right? That exists.
Yeah.
That's why Jaxson Dart is starting. That's why he started against the Chargers, right? In an ideal world, you probably would have said, oh, you know what, we'll wait till the Saints. But they need to win games. They can't just throw games away. They can't have games get ugly. Can't have games get ugly at home.
Yeah. So because I look at the wide receiver thing and I'm like, all right, we need to replace wide receiver 3. And a lot of people go to wide receiver 1 with Chris Olave, DJ Moore, like those types of players. And wouldn't that be reckless for the Giants to go after? Like get Jacoby. I mean, again, maybe you get a day 3 pick for Jacoby Myers or something. But I feel like if that was on the table already, the Raiders would have traded Jacoby Myers by now. And maybe as their season goes down the drain, they're more open to it. I don't know. I feel it hard to see that this team goes out and replaces wide receiver 1, because then what are you doing with that player after that? Are you re-signing him, to another contract while you have Malik Nabers coming from the ACL and Darius Slayton flying through for a couple more years? Like, what are you doing with that player then?
I agree. Like, you're making salient points and everything you say makes sense. But the thing is, and don't we know this already, Bobby? Like, you shouldn't apply logic to this regime at this point. Like, you can't just rule it out completely with this regime. Like, they make some, like, when you think a move doesn't make any sense, they make it sometimes.
And Alex makes a good point
most times
too.
you could use logic.
Yeah, I'm saying Alex makes a good point too. Like, they're going to have to restructure more contracts just to get through this year with all the practice squad elevations that are going to be coming every single week. So.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have to do that anyway. So, but in order they are tight on money. I think that's a factor as well. So I really don't see them doing it. But I've learned already from this regime, we're in year 4, that I am not going to make any proclamations and say it's impossible for them to make a move that doesn't really make sense. And yes, and we're talking about like a higher end. I'm not going to say high end because the real number 1 receiver is not available right now, right? So I think it would be more like a guy you could put in as maybe like a number 2. And Slayton's going to have to step in that outside number 1 receiver type role. Like, that's it. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's what it's going to be. You mentioned Jalen Hyatt, and I think he'll play a bigger role. I do think we're going to see a split there between Jalen Hyatt, at least some degree, and Bo Collins. Go look at the snaps in the previous game. Bo Collins played 19 to Jalen Hyatt's 26. So not that far off, right? Like, you're going to see 2 different players there. So, yeah, maybe you will see Jalen Hyatt not play a ton of early downs because, like, he's limited in those things. So I do think that is possible.
With Hyatt, this is where it's like I don't understand why they at this point move off of Hyatt and bring in someone like Isaiah Hodgins, because Hyatt has less than 100 yards in his last 23 games. That is one because of his ability, but that means they've given up on him. Because if they hadn't given up on him, he would have had more opportunities to make any receiver that they had any hope for would have more than 98 yards in 23 games. And any, like Bo Collins. If they keep Bo Collins on the roster for 23 games, he'll have more than 98 yards. And obviously Hyatt will more if they keep running him out there. It just doesn't make sense to, like, not bring in someone like Isaiah Hodgins who you can trust. And I keep banging the table for Isaiah Hodgins like he's Terrell Owens. But it's just like it. And maybe there's a better receiver out there that I don't know the name of. And I'm not pretending I know all the wide receiver 4s in the NFL. But it just – I'll be shocked if they just keep throwing Hyatt out there, because they themselves have told us they don't care about him at all.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But at the same time, they could have gotten rid of him. They could have gotten rid of Evan Neal too. Like they've for whatever reason, we could all make our guesses or educated opinions on it. They don't want to give up on the draft pick. It'll look bad to get rid of him, but they've kept him around, and he's next in line. So I do think they want to give him one more shot here, and they're going to give him one more shot this year. So, yeah, I mean, for better or worse, Bobby, and I know you really don't want it. You don't want it, and you're done with Hyatt. You've given up on that, and you don't think he's very good. Looking at the tape,
well, the Giants have given up on him too,
to a degree, not completely. He's on the roster.
His splitting snaps.
He's been active, and he played this past week, right?
Yeah, split snaps with Bo Collins. That doesn't scream a lot of faith to me.
I mean, I don't think they have complete faith in him, obviously, but they're going to give him a chance. Like, that's why he's here. That's why they've kept him. And so for better or worse, I do think they're going to give him a chance here. Yeah. It is. I know you don't have much hope in it, but honestly, just seeing him run and seeing him work, like, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get something out of him. It actually mind-boggling to me that you're not able to get something out of him.
Let's talk. I want to get back to the Jaxson Dart situation as I wrote down the timestamp. So they made the move, right? It's very clear that he's Brian Daboll's guy. Connor Hughes has weird tweets about it. There's reports. So, the report comes out after the week 1 loss that, like, they're not in a rush to play Dart. They go to Dart. And then a report comes out that they consider Dart after week 1. So where is the disconnect in the building between Jaxson Dart right now? Because there's clearly some disconnect there.
Well, I think it's clear, like, it's Jaxson Dart is Brian Daboll's guy, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point. And, it was kind of put out there this week that Brian Daboll at least thought of going to Jaxson Dart after week 1. We saw that with our own eyes, right, Bobby? He didn't really want to commit to Russell Wilson immediately. Right. Eventually came back the next day and said, yeah, well, Russell's going to be our starter. But I think immediately in the heat of the moment, the thought at least crossed his mind. And so more of the pressure is on Brian Daboll. And you hear little things about how, the front office and the coach aren't on the same solid ground that maybe they once were, right? And you see that when Brian Daboll then comes out and says, this is my decision. This is my decision. This is my decision. This is my decision. How many times did you say he said it?
I think it was seven different
right?
times in that for initial press.
7 different times. That tells you that not that the front office isn't completely in on Jaxson Dart, because I think they are, especially now after what they saw this summer in the opener in his first start. But everything's not simpatico and it hasn't been smooth. And I've heard a lot of different things over the past, 6-9 months about how everything isn't so smooth. And that's what happens when things go poorly, right? One side is personnel, they brought in the players, and the other side is coaching, and they're supposed to be the ones who are coaching up the players. And, we can infer that, the personnel wants the players coached up more, and the coaches, they want better players, right? And so that's how these things generally go. And so I think that to a degree, that's where we stand. And Brian Daboll felt the heat. And like I said, he felt the walls closing on him to a degree. And maybe the general manager doesn't feel that. I don't think he does. And that's why this is my decision. Jaxson Dart's playing. I need this guy to play. I need to show what I think he could do. And I'm willing to, bet my job and my future on this young man as the quarterback. And I think that's what it all comes back to here.
Yeah, it's been very clear that Brian Daboll's wanted him to play, but it's where I wonder is, like, obviously there was some disconnect on when to play him. I wonder how much disconnect there is on him as a player, because there is people in that building or people that left that building who are flat out like, why are we, like, on the point of, like, why are we drafting this kid? And I hope Dart gets to a point where now everyone likes to start taking credit for him, even though they may have not been that, because that's how front offices work, is they look to get credit for everything good and disconnect themselves from stuff that goes bad. But that's what I'm just interested in, because there clearly is some type of disconnect. But
yeah,
he's here.
I agree, and you hear a lot of rumblings about it, and I've heard a bunch of things over the past, like I said, 6 to 9 months. I don't know to the degree it is with the quarterback, but you can piece it together going by what Brian Daboll is saying publicly, right? It was always, Bobby, we group decisions, we talk about it, we come to a general consensus. This is my decision. I'm making this decision.
Right.
And yeah, I think that kind of explains everything there.
Do you think Abdul Carter's performance against the Chargers gets them to stop playing him at other positions? Obviously, he's going to move inside on some third downs and stuff, and they actually started letting Burns do that a little more too. But Kayvon has played at a really good level where it hasn't been clear, like, oh, just reduce his snaps, like some thought it would be in the offseason, including myself as someone who liked Kayvon, but he's taken a step forward this year. Do we think we stop seeing Abdul Carter playing? I won't even say inside, just inside the linebacker.
I don't think we've seen it completely disappear. I still think there's going to be some snaps where he's at inside linebacker, some snaps where he's at defensive tackle, but I do think we've seen a shift here. He's going to get more snaps at tackle. On the edge against tackle. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like we've seen that shift now. And I think they saw that, we could use Kayvon Thibodeau on the inside a little bit more. Like that was what was different in this game, right?
Yeah.
And so it seems like Thibodeau and Burns are going to have some of their snaps on the interior now. And then they're going to run games left and right. And I think that's, maybe that was because it was against the Chargers to that degree. But I think they finally hit on something where they said, okay, this is probably best for us long-term. It's probably best for our young number 3 overall pick long-term also. And so I do think there's been a switch. But there will be some snaps where I think he's playing inside linebacker in some pressure packages where he's still playing defensive tackle. Like I do.
Pressure package, fine. But when they were just putting him at regular linebacker like they did a lot versus the Chiefs, I just feel
that I think was out of necessity because they were running out of guys. But Darius Muasau is back. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles is back also. So I don't think we're going to see that, if that's what you're asking. Like, is he going to play 20 snaps at inside linebacker? No. That was, okay, we're down to our 4th guy here. Let's just play him in that spot for this game until we can get healthier. I don't think that's a long-term thing at all.
Flanagan-Fowles was my first who is that of the season, because he changed to number 33. So, or at least first, who was that I got wrong? Because I was like, oh, that's Neville Hewitt. And then I'm like, oh, no, that's actually Flanagan-Fowles. For some reason, he changed to number 33. So, shout out to him for being the first guy.
It's an interesting linebacker number. You don't, every time I take a double take and you don't really recognize him.
If you sit with me in the stands at training camp, I have a lot of pride in knowing every player on the roster. And I'm like, bang, boom. And people will start giving me trivia. Flanagan-Fowles was my first mess up of the year. Usually I can just put together like, oh, that's the new player. And I said, oh, no, I half the game I thought Neville Hewitt was playing. And I realized in the second half that was Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Speaking of guys from, getting first playing time or whatever, why did they only go with 2 running backs on Sunday and keep Turbo Miller off leave him off the practice squad elevations?
I think, and from what I've been able to get on that, was that, their emergency running back essentially is Wan'Dale Robinson, right? I mean, we could sit here and pretend like that's a terrible idea, but I think they had a contingency there, an emergency just in case option. And then they were doing so much roster juggling this week that they decided not to do the Turbo Miller thing. All I know is that Turbo Miller at no point during the week was really being prepared as if he was going to be in the lineup. So this was a decision that was kind of made at the beginning of the week. It is interesting, and I was a little blown away. And I even going at, like, I knew that was the case, like after hearing what they did at practice. but I still had to wait and see on Sunday. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe they're just, or Saturday, maybe they're just going to elevate him and not actually play him. And then, like, they didn't practice him, but have him as like an emergency option. But no, they just decided against it.
Can I tell you something? I know I've been very critical of them. I actually don't hate that. Especially like you said, they had to use 2 practice squad elevations. They had to add 2 guys to the active roster. Oh, and that reminds me, I got to ask you a question about the kicker. If they would have gotten injured, I hate to say it, I would have just been like, it's bad luck. Like, that's just simply bad luck if they're having both their running backs get injured in this game and they have to go to Wan'Dale Robinson. Because if one got injured, you could have given the other back. Now, if they had Devin Singletary returning kicks, then I think that deserves more criticism. But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to try and get through a game with only 2 running backs when you have so many other things. And again, Turbo Miller is basically, what are you going to do with him besides throw him a screen pass? So it's like, even if he's in the game, like, he's technically a running back, but it's not like he's going to be doing. Me personally, I don't think he's going to be doing good.
I think there are players at other positions you probably could have sacrificed. You don't put other people in special teams.
Certainly.
But yeah,
I still think it's crazy they don't have Amir Smith-Marset on the team, right? When we talk about the other receivers not playing, like, they keep on they clearly don't have another kick returner besides Gunnar Olszewski. And they just keep throwing back the different people. And I know Banks had a nice return, but that one seems destined for disaster the way that he it just looked like he was going to get his legs chopped out from underneath him 20 different times.
He had a good return though. And I thought for sure it would probably end up being a disaster. Like, that's that's kind of their MO, this regime. Like, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong to like the nth degree. Yeah. But he had a good return. So kudos to him.
Let's see, what else do I do? Oh, so speaking of Deonte Banks, in week 4, why are they just not picking a player there? And it's not just third down. Banks replaced Flott for, I'm looking at my ghostwriter's question, 10 straight plays in the second quarter. Was that injury? Well, again, why are they persisting with Deonte Banks, who, no matter what the safety's job, gave up a touchdown, and also the 3rd and 18 just jumps inside for no reason? I mean, I think my description of him fits him. I think he's an unfocused player. So why do they keep giving him opportunities?
Yeah, look, he was a first-round pick of this team, and I don't think they're willing and ready to give up on him. And I also was like, wait, is Cordell Flott injured? I don't think he was injured from talking to people. I think that was their choice. Banks is getting drives still every now and then. And I've talked to people in the past about this. And this is an interesting part of the dynamic of the Giants, is that the front office and the general manager kind of mandate at times, hey, we need this guy to play X number of snaps. We need this guy on the field. We want to see this guy play. And that, in the past, if you look at it, I believe, there's been some guys, if you look at it, you're like, why is this guy even on the field? Like, what is he doing? And he comes in and plays a random drive here or there. I think it's coming from the front office mandate. Like, that's my best guess at the situation.
Okay, guess. Okay, I was going to really press you on that, but
I'm putting pieces together. I haven't had anybody specifically tell me that, but I know that happened in the past with guys.
Yeah,
the front office wanted to see this guy play X number of snaps or X percentage of the snaps, and so the coaches have kind of had to do it. And it was guys that you're just like, we know this guy can't play anymore.
Jim said answer the super chats. We will be doing that probably in about 5 minutes or so. I need to get through my rest of my questions.
All right, let's just bang through them.
Jude McAtamney got the kicking job. Like, I was fairly shocked by that. It's one of those things I can't sit here and rail against because I'm not paying attention to Jude McAtamney at all in training camp. I'm looking at my phone whenever that's the focus of practice. But I do my research on every player the Giants add, especially as UDFAs. He got benched as the starting kicker at Rutgers his final year. Has not made a field goal, I think, over 41 yards in the NFL. They declined a 54-yarder.
Also, has he taken one now?
No.
So
but they declined a 54-yarder in this game.
That was very early, right?
It was in the third quarter,
first,
I believe.
Third? I thought it was the first.
I'm pretty sure it was it might even have been the fourth quarter. Was that Younghoe Koo having a terrible week? Like, or is Jude McAtamney just going to be the kicker until Graham Gano gets off IR, if he ever gets off IR?
I think right now he has the opportunity, right? Until if he goes out there and starts missing kicks, yeah, they'll try somebody else. But right now, he won that competition. I think Younghoe Koo certainly contributed to that. We don't see practice very much of it at all. We saw some special teams drills this past week, and he's just doing kickoffs. I saw Younghoe Koo drill the guy in the front row, on the return team. Like, clearly hit it off the inside of his foot, shanked it, and it hit the guy in the front row. And then the next one was a bad kick too. I don't think it got inside the 20 and then eventually bounced out of bounds. So, yeah, I mean, it just seems like he was beat out by Jude McAtamney. And Jude has an opportunity now to basically make himself a career. And he hasn't missed yet, right? He's made his kicks, so they're going to roll. I would be stunned if they don't roll that back out there because – and we also have to keep in mind, Younghoe Koo is really bad. He's been a really good kicker in the league.
Yeah.
But he was really bad at the end of his tenure with Atlanta. And the special teams coach kind of went out there and was like, oh, nothing. Yeah, no, we don't need to fix anything. And I from seeing just a very, very, very limited sample size, I think they might, they might change that feeling now.
I'm not sitting here saying Younghoe Koo is great, but will they consider bringing another kicker onto the practice squad? Because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jude McAtamney has gotten a lot better. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around him just being the guy for the rest of the year. A guy who got benched by Rutgers. This is not me. I'm not sitting here saying I've watched this guy in practice or anything, or how can they do this? I just have a hard time wrapping my head around that.
I get it, but hey, sometimes kickers, it's crazy. They get in there and they start making kicks. Their confidence goes up, and guy comes out of nowhere and becomes a high-level kicker in the league. It's one of the stranger positions. So I think he's got that opportunity. I agree with you. I'd be surprised if this lasts and he goes and he wins the job and is a kicker the whole year. But in the meantime, I think he's the guy. And Younghoe Koo, we'll see. We're doing this on Tuesday at noon. We'll see the roster tweaks the Giants have later today, right? Today and tomorrow. Like, that's when you kind of find out the moves that they make. And right now, by the way, I think they're sticking with Drew McAtamney. I think they're sticking with the wide receivers the way it is. This is kind of what I've heard from people, that the likelihood is they stick with the wide receivers as they are. And they'll see how it goes this week and kind of reassess as they move forward here. So Jalen Hyde is kind of like his last stand here.
Last question before we go to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with Connor Hughes?
Connor's, he's a good reporter. Connor's a good reporter. He can be a little dramatic at times. I'll admit.
I want to give the listeners context because not everybody saw this, but this was written by Connor after the game.
You're gonna read it in like with like
a sexy
erotica tone. Is that how this is?
I can't put that on film. Basically talking about the quarterback, and Jaxson Dart was among a few players remaining in the locker room. You could tell he was sore the way he moved from the far. Actually, I need to read all this. Jaxson Dart was among the few players remaining in the Giants locker room. You could tell he was sore the way he moved from the far corner showers to his stall. How he now stood, now collecting himself. Those 6 sacks, 10 hits by the Chargers defense radiated over him. That's when Brian Daboll joined as quarterback. The two had already embraced each other on the field, but this was different. It was quieter now, less around. Daboll reached his hand out, grabbed the back of Dart's neck, and brought him close. They held each other. Daboll then walked away with a smile. This felt like the start of something. What's that all about?
I mean, I don't like to speak for other people, but it really is just to show and signify how much it means to Brian Daboll and how this is his guy. Like, That's what it was showing. I believe, and I don't want to completely speak for him, that's where this was heading. That was the intention, to show how much Brian Daboll is always around this guy. Like, so let me just give you an example.
That's what you're saying on camera, but what are you guys saying behind the scenes? Like, what are you right? What is going on here, Connor?
Well, I mean, yeah, we're just messing with him, saying he has a new career in writing erotica prose, and that's it. It's an easy, funny thing to just sort of, poke at him. I mean, God, look what the internet's taken and done with that thing already. I mean, dear Lord.
Don't blame the internet. Connor did that himself.
Oh, I fully agree with you on that. And look, we, in our little group text, he's hearing that plenty. But it really is. I mean, the whole point is to signify that that's how Brian Daboll feels about this quarterback, about this guy. Like this is Dave Gettleman's full bloom love, right?
You could just say that though.
Huh?
You could just say he's in full bloom love. You don't have to explain what shower stall he was in.
Well, Dave Gettleman gave that quote, so we just use that quote now. He just, yeah. He was giving details to show that that's the case. We've said this is the case the whole time, right? And Brian Daboll goes and shows up at practice. They make Jaxson Dart the starter. He's literally standing behind him the whole entire time we're there. Like, that never happens. He's always walking around, going different position groups. He's just standing there. He's working with him. Jaxson Dart's warming up and throwing. He's standing next to him and talking like, this is his guy. This is his Josh Allen in New York. He's going to do everything humanly possible to make sure that this guy succeeds. That's kind of what it was showing. And this is how invested Brian Daboll is. Now, Connor took it and turned it into a lot of sexual innuendo. The internet then took that and took it where it is right now. So there we go.
So let's get into some of the questions.
Okay.
Hold on. There was one thing I wanted. Where was the question that I wanted?
Some of these comments about Connor are amazing.
I totally lost my train of thought for a second. Well, while we're doing this, you did a book signing in Albany last night with my guy Roger Weiland, Michael Champa. Hey Jordan, thanks for signing my book last night. Look forward to reading.
Yeah, good dude. We had a good event. So that's why we started a few minutes late. I just got back from Albany, stayed over last night, drove back home this morning. Great crowd there. It just goes to show you, Bobby, Albany still has that Giants roots completely, because that's where training camp was. Like, that is a strong Giants foothold in Albany. And I'll talk about it here because I know it's a big topic down up there in Albany. They didn't put the Giants game. They chose, the CBS affiliate chose the Bills game over the Giants game in Albany this past week. It was like the first time that many people there can ever remember the Giants game not being broadcast in Albany. And that just goes to show you where they were as an organization with all this losing, that they were losing their luster.
It's
but
sad.
And I think it was before the decision was made before Jaxson Dart actually became the starting quarterback. And so, but just goes to show you that that's where that area of New York stands on the Giants. Still big Giants football. I sold every book that I brought there. I brought 2 boxes. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, congrats.
Came home with 0. So thanks to Albany for coming out.
I love the Albany crowd. I go on the ESPN Albany with Roger Weiland and Michael Johnson all the time. Those guys are great. Yeah. And I have family that's up near there too. I love the Albany area.
Super cool place too, man. The Bunker. It's like one of those golf places. So there's golf bays and then TVs and food. It's super souped up and awesome place. All right. What else you got?
I'll say this comment by Michael Champlin. I know we're getting the questions, but I don't want to sit here and slop, and I'll say this on our mail, but slop over like 111-yard passing performance. But that's something I 100% agree with. They don't win that game with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
They just don't. Agree. Like they don't have the legs. They don't have the middle of the field stuff, which was the best passing stuff from Jaxson Dart. Like, they just don't win that.
Yeah, no, I agree. But at the same time, is you don't leave that game being like, this guy's going to tear apart the league going forward in the future. He's going to be able to read defenses.
Yeah.
We don't know. I mean, I don't think I left there knowing any more or less than I did beforehand about whether he's going to be able to sit back in the pocket and read defenses consistently.
Right. Colin Bright, can we at least run 22 personnel in the red zone, even in passing situations? We don't have anyone receiver, and all our running backs are good receivers. I do think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end stuff, at least this week until they can figure that out. Trade Hyatt and Neal for Trey Harris. I just don't think the Chargers want to trade their 2nd round pick for 2 bad players. Although it would be, I'm a big fan of once you have that quarterback. I love getting connections to whatever their past was, and to have Trey Harris would be pretty cool. What was the last quarterback former teammate connection with the Giants? Quick.
Daniel Jones, Jamison Crowder.
They went
to the same school, but they weren't teammates.
Deon Jaxson. Remember the running back Deon Jaxson? He was Daniel Jones' high school team, or he was Andrew Thomas's high school teammate, and then Daniel Jones's college teammate, which he was just halfway decent receiving.
I knew I was giving the wrong answer, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah. They also had Matt Skura from Duke, but none of those guys were at Duke with DJ.
Yeah, they have. You know what? They have a Duke guy in the locker room. Do you know who it is?
Victor Dimukeji.
Ooh, good one, Bobby.
Him and Chris.
But that's a little tricky because he hasn't played and he's injured, so you had sort of out of sight, out of mind, or out of.
He was a DJ teammate. Him and Chris Rumpf were kind of a nice defensive end duo for them, and that's talking Duke football. Lou Mateo, there was a clear disagreement with upper management and Daboll with starting Dart. What are the vibes now? Are they back on the same page? It's probably too early for you to answer.
Yeah, it's a little early to tell. But I mean, look, the reality is in the NFL, winning cures everything, right? I mean, you win, everything's great. I mean, it's pretty well known that Brian Daboll and Sean McDermott didn't have a great relationship. It was completely done at the end. Right. But they won a lot in Buffalo. And so he ended up, staying there. He wasn't going anywhere. And he ended up having a good run in Buffalo. They really didn't get along that well at the end. Joe Judge actually wanted to bring Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator. And they thought that could happen before the whole Jason Garrett thing went down. So,
Yeah, what a world that would have been.
Think about it.
Joe Judge would be a Super Bowl champion now.
But the offense hasn't exactly been great under Daboll.
I know. I want to say I would have loved to have that world instead of the Jason Garrett world. You have some other questions.
I got a bunch started. Why don't we do Calm Bright here? Can we at least run 22 personnel in the red zone?
We just did that.
We did?
Yeah. Go. I kind of answered it, and so you answer it.
Let me add one thing to this. Remember, they're running a very collegey, their version of their offense with every play was in shotgun. Like, I don't think that's the offense they want to run with Jaxson Dart.
Yeah. And that relies being under center a ton. Like, you forget when 2022, they were under center a ton. They were running a ton of under center play action.
But I just don't see that's what they want to do with Jaxson Dart. Different situation.
I don't think they have the run game to do that either. You have some of these questions starred. Do you think Akiva says, do you think Lil Jordan Humphrey gets a shot? He had a good connection with Dart in the preseason. And he is the most accomplished receiver outside of Slayton and Wandale that's on the Giants.
That's why I started, because I do think that there's a chance that he does get a chance to actually get in there. I don't know when or where. But like I said, right now, I think they're sticking with what they have on their roster and they want to see how it goes. And then maybe guys like Isaiah Hodgins that people have mentioned, the Gabe Davis's, I don't know what his situation exactly is in Buffalo at the moment.
He's on practice squad IR.
Okay.
So remember Cole Beasley was on that for the Giants a couple of years ago.
Right. So does the rules prohibit you or prevent you from being able to take him then?
I don't know, to be honest, which at the same time, I don't think Gabe Davis is getting help. Maybe he does because he has an opportunity to possibly start.
But again, we're talking down the line in the future. And then if they do that and the Bills want to keep him, they could just say, hey, well, we're going to sign you to the roster.
Yeah.
Right. So that I doubt, I don't really see that happening. I know a bunch of people said that over here. That's why I wanted to address it there. But yeah, I think Isaiah Hodgins could definitely be on the radar. Guys like that, options like that, and the likelihood they go the super high end guy. While I didn't put it at 0 before, is pretty low.
All right, so I need to move my truck because it's parked on the grass and my lawn guys
Okay.
are here. So tell me which question you want next, and then you're gonna have to hold it down for like 2 minutes.
I'll hold it down. Go ahead. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. So, okay. We'll go with I did that question with David Hernandez. We'll go with Antonio Vidal. Okay. Do you expect Chauncey Golson, Rakeem Nunez, Roaches back this week? Golson has an ankle injury. Nacho has a foot injury. Nacho seemed to think Rakeem Nunez, Roaches seemed to think he had a good chance to be back this week. Golston tried to practice at the beginning of last week. I don't think it was great. I wouldn't be surprised if he has to miss another week, but I do think they both at least have a chance here to return. The godlike Mike says, why is Banks in a Giant jersey still? Here's the simple reasoning. All right, this is probably 2 reasons. One is he's a first-round pick, and they're not even giving up on Evan Neal, who we know is out of the picture, can't even play. He's still on the roster on the back end right now. And the other, and so Banks is a first-round pick, so they're not going to give up on him. And the other is because they're not great at that position. So, yes, should Flott play more? Should Flott play the whole game? Should Flott never come out for Deonte Banks? I think so. But at the same time, the Giants aren't exactly loaded at that position. So they still need a cornerback that they could trust there. I guess trust is a relative word in that regard. So, we did this one with already getting a shot for little Jordan Humphreys. Oh, I also wanted to bring this up because I guess what's goody, bruh, said we're not underdogs to the Saints. If I said that, that was a mistake. I know they're not underdogs to the Saints. Giants are 1.5 point favorites to the Saints. They were actually 2.5 point favorites to the Saints. That when I looked at it earlier in the week, you're not going to switch. It's not going to flip 3 points, especially with nothing, really significant happening. So if I did say that, I'm sorry. That was my mistake. I messed that up. Somebody could tell me if I did say that. I guess I did in some way, shape, or form. So,
pussy.
AZ Realtor says, do they have any capacity to add Reek Woolen? He's the cornerback from Seattle. I do think this is one we should monitor, Bobby, at least keep in the back of our mind. I heard that Reek Woolen could be. What are we doing over there? Oh, is that your lawn getting cut?
Yeah, you can hear it.
Oh, yeah. Is that Reek Woolen could be available, but they would like a player in return. Like, is Evan Neal really going to get that done?
Deonte Banks.
You're not going to trade Reek Woolen for Deonte Banks. If you're Seattle, I'm saying.
Maybe they believe, hey, you know what teams do? They trade for guys who do good against them. I think Deonte Banks' 2 best games in his career are against the Seahawks and DK Metcalf. So it's, they did that with Leonard Williams, right? Like Leonard Williams' best games were against the Seahawks, and then they traded a 2nd and 5th for him.
The Seahawks are a generally well-run franchise. I just don't see that as being the one they're going to go do. They have a really good front office. I don't know. Someone's saying that they're underdogs. The line flipped.
Yeah, I believe so. I think I just saw Doug Analytics tweet that out.
Hold on.
Here, I'll look it up on.
Oh, wow. You're right. I read it wrong. I apologize to everyone. The Giants are 1.5 point underdogs. Wow. Did it really start at 2.5 then? I know I saw somebody put that. Maybe not.
Which is crazy because that was the only game that they were favored in the beginning of the year. Now they're 2.5 point underdogs.
You know what? I wonder if the Malik Nabers element to it affected it. Bobby, You're getting judged here for not cutting your own grass.
I rent, so it's not even my decision.
Why?
Because my landlord pays for it.
Oh, you rent? I thought you said you had a ranch.
No, I rent. I've never paid for my lawn to be cut in my life, so I've always cut my own lawns.
Huh.
So you do not judge according to appearance, my friends.
Look at Bobby. Anti-mowing his own lawn. Like, I'll admit, I pay someone to mow my lawn, but I'm that guy. Just it's not a huge investment. Like, I have half an acre. Like, it's not a huge investment to get someone to cut your lawn for, you only have to do it so many months of the year here in Jersey.
Yeah, you got to do it year round here.
Yeah, not here.
How much do you get charged?
It's not crazy. I think it's like $40 a week.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think it's maybe 35. I don't know if it went up. I'm not the one who handles it. The guy actually is unbelievable. He forgets to bill us every year, and then at the end of the year, it's like, you owe me $2,000.
He forgets to bill you at the end till the end. See, as someone who has also had a trade company before, I'm very like, you know what? I'm not gonna be like on the second, third of the month being like, where is it? I just kind of like, someone paid me on the 20th, and I don't make any noise about it. But end of the year, it's crazy. And I've went like 3 months without getting payment before, being like, either they pay me and I get all this money at once, or I lose a customer with no bad blood.
Well, he just forgets to bill me, and I'm like, yo, don't, like, if you want me to pay, you got to send a bill. And then when he gives me a bill with it all up front, I'm like, I'm not paying you all at once. Like, well, I'm not just going to pay you whatever $2,500 right now. I'll give you it in installments. I told you to keep sending me a bill. It's kind of crazy, yeah. And every year, same thing. But he shows up and cuts the lawn. That's all that matters. Jim Osborne says no trades for wide receivers. We need all our picks. You agree with that, Bobby? Like, would you give up an asset, a day 3 pick for?
Jacoby Myers.
Sure.
And the day 3 pick's not getting it done for DJ Moore or Chris Olave. And Chris Olave and I love Chris Olave. He was my wide receiver one that class. I love him. He's been on a bad team and injured. If he wasn't, he would be viewed as one of the better receivers in the league. Mm-hmm. But he's just
Calvin Ridley.
I hate Calvin Ridley. Hate.
Still wouldn't do it for a day 3 pick.
No. Talk about an unfocused player. I don't understand why anyone ever got back, how he got back in like the good favor. One barely scratching 1,000-yard season in 2022 made people forget everything that happened with the Falcons.
I just don't think.
And he's old, dude. He was like 29 when he signed that contract with the Titans.
I just don't think it's worth giving up. I wouldn't want to give up a pick for anybody because it's just really the short-term, move. It's not somebody you're bringing here for the long run. Nabers is coming back. You're already invested in Slayton. You have a decision to make with Wandale. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense for me to give up. And I want every pick to be able to have as much flexibility and build to the future. Like, I'm not worried about this year. Like, let him take his lumps. I'm fine with him letting him take his lumps. I get it. Might be in a better situation. I'd love to see him play with Nabers, but I don't want to give up any picks at this point.
Yeah.
That would be me.
Justin Pennick, and we can do the last question, says, what beat reporter are you the closest with?
You think that's a real Justin Pennick?
Of course.
Who am I closest with? Duggan, Leonard, Connor, Hughes. That's like that's like my crew. Why?
People are going to hate you for that answer, by the way. But
why?
But you put like Leonard and Pat. I mean, Leonard just puts. Here's the thing with Pat right now is like he's kind of been right on everything because the Giants have been so bad. It's like what I have not experienced him much when Giants have been good. I hate to say it, Justin Pennick keeps asking good questions. Are the Yankees going to win tonight? I need this question for myself because I'm a Yankees fan, not a baseball fan. Every night I see Yankees fans talking about how it's the worst team in baseball, and then they're like first place and the have the best record in the AL. Can the Yankees actually do the damn thing and win the World Series this year? And we'll finish with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be watching. I don't have a ton of confidence in this team. I haven't fully gotten back on board. They just, at some point, their flaws will come to light, and they will make bad base running mistakes and stupid plays, and they'll make fielding. And I know that sounds very negative, and I'm going to be rooting for them hard, but I can't get myself completely on board.
But here's the thing is, last year they had all those same issues. Granted, they had Juan Soto, which made a huge difference, as much as I do laugh at the fact that Mets didn't make the playoffs. Is they had all those issues last year, and they made it to the World Series and then ran into a buzzsaw that was the Dodgers.
They lost in the World Series because they lost in the World Series because of those reasons, and they actually the AL was really, they had a very fortuitous route last
That's
year.
what I'm saying. Isn't the AL weak again though?
I think Seattle's really good. I like them a lot. They're actually, I think they can win it all. I actually think the Red Sox are very dangerous. They could easily lose this series. Like I'm still worried. I'm rooting hard for them, but I'm not going to be. I can't sit here and say the Yankees are definitely going to win the World Series, which is what you asked me.
Yeah,
it's like getting on board. It's like getting on board with the Giants. How much did one win do for you?
I fully agree with that. Like, I don't believe in the Yankees, even though I don't watch them day in, day out. But I do remember this was the same thing last year. The Yankees, again, I think Juan Soto makes a huge difference. They made it to the World Series. What happens if we've seen this before?
Bobby, we're Yankee fans. We're whiners, and we're whiners and complainers. We're Yankee fans. We like, if they're not by the best team in baseball by 25 games, we will not be happy.
Which is the truth. That's the way it should be. Like, the Yankees, they should be held to a higher standard than every MLB team not named the Dodgers.
I'll turn this back to the Giants just to end here, because I think this is one of the most unbelievable things about the organization is I feel like the standard has been lowered to some degree now that it's kind of disappointing.
Yep.
That the standard, the expectation shouldn't be, hey, let's just win 5 or 6 games. Like, you should never be in the position where that's even like palatable in year 4 of a regime ever.
I agree. That's a lot of my offseason, where the offseason I just kept quiet when everyone's using the word hype and vibe and stuff like that. And I was like, why is this the standard? The standard needs to be higher than what it is. And when everyone says, well, it's really year 2, I'm like, nope, that's not true. That's not the standard. Okay. You're only saying year 2 because of Daniel Jones. But look at the first 2 draft classes and look at them. Okay. That's the reason why they're in this situation, not just one contract for a quarterback. All right. Close this out.
Let's end on that. You're listening to Breaking Big Blue. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends. I'm Jordan Raanan. He's Bobby Skinner. Breaking Big Blue times Giants Sports Nation. See you next time.
Oh, my God. You freaking did it.
Giants Nation show. Oh, my God. I'm literally reading it up top, too. Giants Nation show. It's unbelievable.
That's going to be the name of the media company, Giants Sports Nation.
I have a mental block. I have mental block.
Something mental.